All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the Greg Ryder Show. And on today's podcast, we're bringing on our first professional athlete. This is a good friend of mine. His name's Chad Bassen. And I met him just playing golf and just hanging out. He's got a very interesting story about playing professional hockey in Germany for the last 19 years. So he has just been, doing hockey, doing what he loves. He talks about, obviously, the dedication, the sacrifice that he had to make to, play pro hockey. He had, like most Canadian kids, had the dream of playing in the NHL. And he talks about, the lockdown and how that played a role in going over to Germany for his first years. So this is a very interesting episode to dive into the brain of a professional athlete to see what it took for him to stick with it through some very bad injuries, some times of self-doubt. But I think you're definitely going to take a lot of value away from this episode and just learning more about Chad and how he played hockey for so many years and just kept it going. So hopefully you enjoy this episode. Don't forget to subscribe if you're listening on YouTube, and if you're on Spotify or Apple Music, just like this episode and share it with your friends and family. Thank you. All right, welcome to the Greg Ryder Show. And so today, the purpose of this podcast is just to kind of dive deep into people's lives. And we want to go into different industries. I think there's so much you can learn from individuals. And it doesn't matter if, you're in the musician, you're an entrepreneur, you're an athlete. And it's always interesting to talk to people, find out kind of their turbulences, their failures, their successes, and just kind of what they've done to get to where they are. So on today's episode, we got Chad Bassen. And Chad, so we met probably the start of this summer, and we met outside of the golf course, Strathmore Golf Course. Yep. And obviously I heard a bit about you from your dad, and you played professional hockey in Germany, and you're coming up on your 20th year. And just let me know kind of how this all started, and obviously where were you born, and when you come to Strathmore, and tell me how important hockey was growing up.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. It's been a crazy ride. Should be my 20th year coming up here. Playing hockey, was just I was born and raised playing hockey and golf. So since I was a little kid, I wanted to be a pro hockey player, and that was just a dream, and that's all I remember growing up, playing hockey all winter long and golf in the summer. So yeah.
And like most kids in Canada, I feel like a lot of us growing up playing hockey is always that dream. It's like playing the NHL, and like I had that dream growing up, and I think for me it was like playing. I played the rep. I never really went to AAA or anything like that, but I'd always play minor hockey, and just kind of growing up playing, I was always like, man, like it'd be so cool to play NHL hockey. But like, what do you need to do at an early age to really set yourself up for making a living playing hockey? Like, what kind of sacrifices?
I think it's definitely changed over the years. Like nowadays I see these kids, they virtually have no off time. Like they play all summer and they're training at a young age. Like when I was growing up, I still took the entire summer. I never played summer hockey and never really trained. I was like, I played golf all summer. So it's definitely changed over the years, but definitely sacrifices just, I don't know. You make quite a few along the way, I guess. Like, but that was my dream, and never really fulfilled my dream playing the NHL. But to play 20 years pro over in Germany has been pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever have to go to like any different, like did you go to different schools or anything, like training camps or anything to kind of set yourself up for that?
I didn't. I just grew up in Strathmore. Yeah, just played here. Played minor hockey. Grew up in Strathmore. Played all my years here. And then I played 4 years in the Western League, and then got an opportunity to go over to Germany and was kind of stuck there ever since.
Now, did you get kind of scouted to, like, was there any talk about you kind of going to the NHL, or was there kind of like, were you holding out for that? Like when you first got maybe your first German like pro contract, were you like, wait, no, like I got to see if something else comes here first?
Yeah, it was a funny story actually. My first year out of junior was the first NHL lockout year, so I had no chance to play in North America. So I was looking for like a tryout in the NHL, or I was looking like I might get one. But NHL lockout, no camps, no games. So I got an opportunity in Frankfurt and went over on a little tryout because obviously they didn't know who I was over there. And after a 2-week tryout, I believe, I made the team and been stuck there for 19 years.
Well, stuck there is the wrong terminology because I think a lot of people would love to make a living playing hockey.
Yeah, but it's been good.
So the lockdown was definitely, that kind of took that away from, like, in the sense like that option kind of off the table for that moment. And but like, I think it's interesting how, growing up and like having like, the NHL dream, but like, did you ever think that you'd ever come back? Or when you went to Germany, like what was your mindset with your years going forward?
No, definitely. I'd say the first 7, 8, 9 years, that was still my dream to come back every year and get a shot, take a shot. That's all I ever wanted to do was play in the NHL. But I think I played with lots of guys that did play in the NHL in North America, and they said, like, you have to have a very good shot at making the team to go over there. So like I had a steady job, getting paid half decent. And they just gave me the advice to like stay over there and work away and build a good career there, unless you have a real legit chance of making an NHL team, which who knows, but like I had a good steady job over there and I kept getting good contracts, so that's just what kept me over there.
Yeah, and I feel like if you really have to take that risk. If you're willing to take that risk, it's like it's burn the boats and go for an NHL contract. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So going up on your 20th year, like what does it take to just stay so committed on hockey? Like, is there ever days like where like you don't like your job? Is it just like anything else?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I went through a few years where I thought like maybe that's it, like the dog days of summer or I should say middle of winter, or when you don't want to train so hard in the summer. But I always had it in me to stay in pretty good shape and look after my body and try and get better every summer, every winter. So I always had that kind of drive in me. And then it's kind of funny, as I got like really later in my career, I started to appreciate it more and more for what it was, like how good of a job it's been, how good of a career it's been. So like, I'd say, super late here the last, let's say 4 or 5 years, I've really appreciated it and tried to work even harder. So that's just what's kept me in there for 19, 20 years.
Where do you think that comes from, the drive to obviously wake up and just continue to go after it?
I think my parents installed that in me at a young age. And then I had an uncle and a grandpa that played in the NHL for a long time, and they kind of built their careers on that same motto, I guess. Like my Uncle Bob was like one of the hardest working guys in the NHL, and my dad always told me just like keep watching him, keep watching how hard he works, and that's kind of I kind of got that from them, I guess.
So you knew that I knew Hank.
Yeah, I think you said that.
Yeah. So Hank Bassen is your grandfather.
Yeah.
And he played in the NHL for how many years?
I believe 8 or 9.
8 or 9 years. Yeah, and I think coming from that pedigree of where, like, did you always feel there was maybe a little bit of pressure in the sense of like, did you feel that like coming from grandfather and uncle that played, you were like, do you feel like you almost had to make the NHL to like make them proud?
I don't think I did, no.
No, okay.
Because I had my Uncle Mark never played in the NHL. He was over in Germany, so I followed his path a little bit.
Yeah.
I never felt the pressure, but I got introduced to, I was around the NHL a little bit. I got to be in the dressing room when my Uncle Bob was around, and I got to see that stuff. So I'm pretty fortunate to see that stuff and guys working hard, and so that's helped me along the way.
What teams did your uncle play for?
My uncle was in Islanders, Blackhawks, Dallas, Calgary, St. Louis, and Quebec Nordiques. So a few teams. Yeah.
Would you want to, if you played the NHL, would it be like the Flames? Is that who you want to play for?
They're my team now for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a team growing up that you were just so like were you always a Flames fan?
I was always a Flames fan, but I was always number one. Number one team was what team my uncle played for. So for sure, I cheered for them first. But ever since he retired, it's been the Flames for sure.
And Hank was a Red Wings.
He was, Detroit, Chicago, and Pittsburgh.
So
that's where he was.
There's the connection between like my uncle. So my uncle being Brian Farrell, he's a vocal coach here in Alberta, and every single time we go to Calgary, he'd always show me the Detroit Red Wing room. Yeah. So he has this room that is just littered with all his Detroit Red Wings and merchandise. Yeah. He had pictures of Hank. Yeah. And he always talks about the stories of like just him and Hank just hanging out. It was so cool. And that was so funny when I finally put that together. Like when I met your dad at the course, and then all of a sudden he didn't know that my uncle was Brian. So then all of a sudden one night I'm sitting at my aunt and uncle's house in Calgary, and we're just talking about Strathmore, and he's just like, oh yeah, like, you know, the Bassens, they're from Strathmore. I was like, the Bassens? How do you know the Bassens? Yeah. They're like, Greg, it's Hank Bassen. Yeah. And I was like, Hank Bassen. Yeah. And then it just clicked, and I'm like, that's the Bassens? Because I've been hearing Hank all my life growing up, hearing about Hank's career, and just, you know, and then all of a sudden it put me right here, and then I'm like, okay, wait, I do know the Bassens.
Yeah, there you go.
And that was so cool. And I think I took a picture of me, my aunt and uncle, and I sent it to your dad, Brian, and I was like, hey, you know these guys? So that was just funny how that all came to be. I think it's cool to have, you know, people that you can look up to, especially your uncle, kind of showing you that life. And it's so cool. So are you going back this year, or is there any kind of like talk about, you know, obviously it's tricky every year, like, you know, being a hockey player, like nothing's ever guaranteed.
Yeah.
Is that the stability and that kind of thing? Was that always kind of hard to deal with, like coming up on like signing year?
A little bit, for sure.
I always wondered like, what's going through someone's head when they're like, man, is this gonna, like, am I ever gonna like step on the ice again as a professional? Like,
yeah, it's definitely tougher when you have a bad year. I'll tell you that much. When you have a good year and you don't have a contract, you kind of feel like, okay, something's coming at some point for sure. And it always did. But when you have that bad year, or you have an injury or something happens, then that doubt kind of creeps in your mind a little bit, like, is another contract coming, or what's going to happen? So I've been lucky that a couple teams have taken chances on me after a couple good injuries I had. And then I kind of just wanted to prove myself again, like after that I could still play and still play at that level. So it happened a few times. Yeah, I just been lucky that way.
And now tell us a little bit of where you've played. Like, where was like, where have you spent the most amount of time? What one like holds fond memories? Maybe your first team, but just tell us a little bit about the teams you played for.
I played for a few different teams over there, but my first 3 years were in Frankfurt, and that was really cool. That was the NHL lockout year, so I played with a few NHLers that year. Every team had like 3-4 guys probably. That was really neat. I went on a few trips there. Was in Russia for a few weeks. I was in Japan for a few weeks, and just playing like international hockey against amazing hockey players was really cool. And then another place, Iserlohn, has fond memories for me. Obviously, that's where I met my wife and spent the most years there. Spent 4 years there. It was a pretty cool spot to play hockey. Small arena, amazing atmosphere every night. Nice. So couple spots. I have couple other ones. Straubing in Germany was pretty neat. Spent 3 good years there. So yeah, a few spots were nice.
Yeah, what's life like over there? Like the cost of living. Like what's the difference you find from Canada and like over there in Germany?
Yeah, it's different for sure. Everything's older. I mean, the food's different. Cost of living is amazing compared to Canada. It's still cheap over there. Only thing more expensive is, I think, fuel right now, but cost of living's fairly cheap. Germany's a great place to live, so yeah, it's been good.
Now, you don't have to get into too much detail, but what's it like being a professional hockey player in your young single life in Germany?
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I mean, I had lots of freedom to do whatever. I mean, I could sign wherever I wanted. I could do whatever I wanted. I traveled a lot, like lots of freedom that way. So it was good.
And you traveled a lot with like, you know, when did you get a chance to travel? Because you come home every single summer, right?
Yeah. Germany's great that way. You have a 2-week break in November and a 2-week break in February. And usually the team gives you 7 full days off. So I don't know, guys get together or whatever and go on different trips. So that's when I did most of my traveling.
So you've done probably some pretty cool places.
Really cool. Yeah. Yeah. And also I traveled with my teams too, like few good trips there. So yeah, been everywhere really.
And then you met your wife, and then you guys did some traveling together as well.
We have been to a few spots, So it's been good.
And so when you met your wife, like I know a little bit about your background. Like she was working at the arena and stuff like that. How'd that all kind of unfold?
It's pretty crazy, actually. My parents were there at the time, and my dad always joked like, "Oh, there's one for you," you know. She was waiting on them, and my dad said that, and my mom's like, "Be quiet," you know. But it worked out somehow. So yeah, pretty amazing. Yeah. So it worked out pretty good. Yeah.
And she was serving.
Yeah.
So she was serving in the restaurant.
She'd never seen a hockey game, never been to a hockey game, didn't even know what it was. She was from a town about 20 minutes away and just got a job like serving. So. Yeah.
It was you said like every game was kind of like busy. So like
amazing. That's one good thing about Germany, maybe compared to other countries. The atmosphere in the rinks every night is amazing. So that rink was a little smaller. I think it was closer to like 5,500, 6,000, but sold out every single night. And like fans just on top of you, like crazy, amazing atmosphere.
Now, what was your role on the team? Were you kind of like I've never watched you play or anything like that. Like, what position were you? What was your kind of role?
I think I played a few different roles throughout my career. Like, depends what team I'm on, but I think I was a two-way player. Like, I could score a little bit and play good defense and check like that too. But I was known mostly in Europe for my speed. I was one of the faster guys in Europe, so. That's kind of what kept me in the game so long.
Were you like left wing, right wing?
I played lots of center.
Center.
Yeah, played lots of center and then played a little bit of left wing.
Because center's a really two-way because you're always you got to come back into the play.
Yeah.
Then you got to like take, you know, it's almost like you sit in the center, but then you help out kind of your teammates in corners and stuff like that. But you always try and break out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's where my speed helped me. I could get up and down the ice and get back fast and help out down low and then transition, get going the other way. So
Were you a leader? Like, were you kind of ever captain, assistant captains?
I have been before. I was more of a quiet leader though. Like, I think I led more by like my work ethic and my like competing on the ice and more that way. I was never like crazy vocal or anything like that, but yeah.
And I think that's a huge thing in the NHL now is like there's a lot more quiet leaders.
Yeah.
Like you get the Connor McDavids, you get the, you know, obviously Bedar's coming in. Like these guys are not going to be like your bring it in, let's get rah. It's just me like, man, he's still freaking grinding. He's still getting in the corner. So I think that's a huge, it's a huge role to have, just kind of leading by example. And I think that goes for just any industry and being a role model as a father, you know, brand new father. You know, I think just leading by example, right, is just the way to go. So, how did it all change when, you know, having your little daughter and what's her name and obviously what's your wife's name and everything and tell a little bit about your family.
Yeah, my wife's name is Sina, a little different for North America, but and then my daughter's name is Nora. She's 20 months old and life changes when you have a kid for sure. It's a little busier, but it's been amazing and just to see her change and like she's 20 months now, and just every day waking up like something's different, like saying new words and running around. It's been awesome.
All right, I just want to pause this conversation quickly just to talk about one of our dear sponsors, Rocket Grid Marketing. They are an incredible Alberta-based digital marketing company, and they focus on growing brands. They focus on hitting business goal needs and whatever your business may need to take you to the next level. So if you want to check out more about what they do, head to rocketgrid.ca and see what they do. Do you feel like, I've heard like, being a father when you have, your first kid or you have a kid, like how much your priorities change. Like you stop living for yourself and you start living for someone else. Like tell us about that kind of, how that went, going from like, a single or, a new relationship and becoming a father. Like tell me that shift and how that happened.
For sure. That changes a lot too. I think my wife gets on me about this all the time too. I was so set in my ways for years and years and years. Like I would golf in the morning, then I'd be at the gym and like for hours, golf, gym, like lunch, maybe go back and golf more. And now it's like, you got to get that done a lot faster and get home but I love spending time with my wife and my daughter. So like, I like to do it just faster. Yeah, for sure. Play early morning golf. I play in like a couple hours. I played with you a few times. We play fast. Yeah. And then it's to the gym and work hard, get your work done, and then go home. Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I think like as a musician, for so many years, I think I always steered away from relationships and stuff like that because I was always scared that, and I think you as you mature and you grow older, you're going to find someone that just helps you, that's not going to tell you to settle. But I feel like every kind of relationship I was in, like they'd always ask me like, how much longer you think you're going to chase this dream?
Yeah.
And it's just like, if a girl asked me that, I was like, this ain't going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Like she's already thinking about the time that maybe I'm not as like focused on this. And I think it's so, when you're going after dreams and you have to find someone that's just going to add to your team and it's going to like be with you ride or die and just kind of say like, hey, wherever you're going, I'm coming with. Like, even if we have to have a tough year or, it's not as glorious as people think, but it's like finding someone that's, it's just going to go to war with you.
Yeah. My wife's been amazing that way. We've been to, I don't know how many different cities now. I guess 4 since we've known each other. Strathmore 5. So, she's come along with me everywhere, and she knows my routine. I like to get my golf in. I have to get my workouts in. Obviously, that's what keeps me going. The workouts, that's if I stop doing that and stop training and all that, then the hockey career is over and stuff like that. So, got to stay on top of that stuff for sure.
Have you ever dealt with, like maybe not doing that routine or falling out of that routine, or you've been pretty consistent for a while?
I've been consistent for like 24 years almost. Wow. 4 years a junior and 19 years pro. It's been just about the same for that long. Yeah. The training's changed a little bit, but the time it's just about been routine for 23, 24 years.
Have you ever dealt with anything like in hockey, like any kind of mental health or like any kind of like maybe some years where, maybe your belief or self-doubt, like did you ever have those times?
Not so much mental health, but I went through like a couple tough injuries and I went through that and like you kind of doubt like, oh, am I going to get back to that same level or is my career over or like what's going to happen? It's kind of up in the air what's going to happen, but I've been very thankful that they've come back pretty good, and I've just continued to go.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that like mental health in hockey, like I feel like over the years it's just become so much bigger, and I think the world we're living in now is just like it's everywhere. Yeah, like more hockey players are coming out about concussions, and there's players dropping out because of anxiety, and like it's so crazy to see, obviously when, you were coming up and stuff like that. And like, even when you're a couple years older than me, but like just how this was never a conversation.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, man, if you're feeling down, it's like tie your skates up tighter and get out there.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, my 4 years of junior were like that. It was I don't know if there was such a thing as a concussion back then. Like, I don't know, we never talked about it, man.
Yeah.
For sure guys had them, for sure guys weren't feeling good and just kept playing. So yeah, guys are definitely more aware of it.
Yeah, and it's just scary. Like I even look at the industry and where I was, like, you know, when I was living back in Nashville, and like from the outside, I think a lot of people thought like, you know, my dreams were starting to take off because you're living down in Nashville, you're being a musician. But like for me, it was like in my head, I knew that like I was feeling this emptiness, and I was feeling like, man, there's so much more that I want to be doing. Like I don't want to be playing these country covers every night. But now I see, like, I had to take a very important step of me coming back and to totally recenter myself and reground myself and say, like, why am I doing this? Like, my mission is not to play country covers every night. And I think I see so many musicians, like there's been a couple of big ones that have had to stop their tours because of mental health.
For sure, yeah.
And it's like, if I didn't take that step back, I don't know if I got picked up or some label came across and discovered me, and then they put me on this tour, but I still haven't taken control of some of my demons inside, what was going on. Like I would have screwed that up. Yeah,
for sure.
So I think it's just, you know, coming home and taking a step back was very important for me. And then obviously, you know, you coming up on, you know, your 20th year, like what is going through your head like at this time, and like, do you want to go back? Like, are you still have that fire inside of you that feels that you can perform at your best? Or
yeah, for sure. I definitely want to play one more year. I want to hit the 20 mark.
Yeah.
And then I believe I'm going to hit 1,000 games this year. I think I got like 38 to go. So those are two marks that I'd like to get. I've come this far, and so I'd like to hit those. And I still do feel like I can play and compete. Like we made the finals last year, and I was playing at a high level. So yeah, why not go back and play again?
Mm-hmm. And what kind of things are you trying to instill in obviously your daughter? Like obviously growing up, and you know, do you want her to get into sports? Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm open to anything, like music, sports, like whatever she loves. Like I just want to open her up to everything, let her try different things, and like yeah, but just instill like work ethic like my parents did. And yeah.
Now we gotta start getting onto this conversation. We gotta start talking about golf.
Yeah,
because this guy is a freaking good golfer, and like I've been out a couple mornings with you, and like I'm just like, it's funny because you'll say you have an okay round and you're at like -2 or you're like +2. Like, what's your handicap?
I'm a 0 right now.
0. Scratch golfer. So like, just to even like to be a scratch golfer, like that takes incredible hard work. Like, why don't you think you ever wanted to like go after golf instead of hockey?
I think just when I was a kid, like I was so dialed in at hockey, and then it kind of started to change around 21, 22, where I got this real passion and love for the game of golf, and it kind of pushed me to get better and better. So yeah, I just kind of instilled the work ethic I had in hockey and took it to golf. Like, I don't think I'm the most natural golfer at all, to tell you the truth. I think like my brothers are better than me. Lots of people are better than me, but I always had that work ethic. Like when I was, let's say 21 to even 30, I played and practiced a lot. And I just like could see how much better I became like when I did that. So that was kind of neat. Yeah.
But just the way you talk about your work ethic, like you could almost be, I think a lot of people like rely too much on natural talent, where like, I think for a long time, I always just relied on natural talent in sports because I never liked to train. Yeah. And I'd always just be like, don't worry, like I'll be fine. Because I played all these different sports. I could never pick one. It's mostly the ADHD. Like I get bored, or like I'm like always needed something new in my life. But like, I just feel like the way you talk about your work ethic, like you would have been the hardest working person in the room, but it was just hard for you. It's almost like you talk about the NHL though. It's like you had stability, you had a good job.
Yeah.
You're like, am I ready to like burn the ships and go after golf?
Yeah. Yeah. NHL is crazy. Like, you need one person to love what you do. And like, I played with a bunch of guys in Germany that were good players, but a bunch of them told me the same thing. They had one person on a specific team that loved what they do and loved them. There's so many good players in Europe, so many good hockey players around the world, but there's just only so many jobs in the NHL. So like, you got to have someone that loves what you do for sure.
Do you think hockey is very political?
I mean, some of it for sure, but I think if you're good enough, you'll make it at some point.
So it's just be so good that they can't ignore you.
Yeah.
Almost.
At some point, you'll get a shot.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I think this, being a musician and being, a professional athlete, I think there's obviously the musician nowadays, you can almost create a totally different, but I think back in the day, when there's only a certain amount of labels and stuff like that, like there's so many people going after this dream, but like, for the lucky people, not lucky, because I think lucky isn't lucky. I think you have to work for it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone gets an opportunity, and it's what you do with your opportunities. It's very, very similar in the sense of like, to a lot of normal people, it's a pipe dream. Like, but luckily for you had people in your corner.
Yeah.
That was like, they showed you it's possible.
Yeah.
To kind of make a living, off hockey. Like, I didn't have anyone that was a musician. I had my uncle, but like, my family was always just like, Greg, like, get a job, get a good job, and just like, and my parents kind of showed me what working the same job for 30 plus years. Like, I'd see them come home and they talk about their job, they talk about stress and employees, and I'm just like, man, like, I don't want to grow up.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting at the table at age 14, like listening to my dad complain about like all of his employees and like the work. And I'm like, no, that's not my life. Like, in a way it kind of showed me, my parents almost showed me what I didn't want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was kind of like, and it took me a long time for me to like realize that, because like, I believe there's role models in your life that show you the positive way, and there's also people that show you kind of a different side.
Yeah.
And like, my parents showed me that. I'm just like, I love my parents to death, and they just never were risk takers.
Yeah.
They found something that brought in good money.
Yeah.
They wanted to build a house. They wanted to build a family. And for me, I was just like, I want to do a little something different. Like, I want to wake up and like every morning go after something.
Yeah, there you go.
But it's definitely been it's been tough. But back to you on, have you made a plan, or like, are you a kind of a look ahead kind of guy? Or are you kind of more live in the present moment?
I think I'm more live in the present for sure. Like I told
you, who does
like I told you,
that?
I've been just in this zone for like 23, 24 years where I'm doing the same thing. And I know it's coming to end at some point here, like in the next year or two. So things will change, but up until now, still doing the same thing.
And I would never say this, but what have you thought about what if? Like the what if like your 20th year doesn't come, like what do you think you want to do? Or has there been some talks about it?
For sure. I think I still want to stay in hockey, be involved in hockey. So whether that's coaching or helping kids out or coaching junior, or I'm not sure yet, but I'd like to stay in hockey.
Would you want to be in Canada or back in Germany?
That's another question. Both is good, but I think I'd like to come back and maybe take a shot at coaching in junior here.
Cool.
Yeah.
We were literally talking like you played the club championship a couple weeks ago, and we were talking after the game, and you said to me, we were talking a bit about, you're like, man, like if I don't get an offer soon, like I'm going back to maintenance.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's so awesome.
Yeah.
That like,
I mean, might still happen. I don't know. Yeah. We've been talking about that too. Like if I don't get a job here in the next while, I might start working at the club. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, just doing lawns and just
We'll
doing
see.
whatever it takes, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I think, for young people growing up and like young people kind of coming into, this sport, like, what would you say to anyone that, is looking to, get into hockey and stuff like that? Like, what do you think is the mindset that they have to kind of deliver?
Yeah, I think just that work ethic, like how good do you really want to be? Like if you play for fun, that's great. But if you want to make a living, you want to play in the NHL or whatever, like how bad do you want it? Like how hard do you really want to work and become better is the thing. Like I've noticed over the years. So yeah.
And there's no chance of you ever, like, you talked a little bit about golf, but like, would you ever want to put golf as your full-time thing?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I thought about that too. I thought about going and trying to get my card this summer, but we're still in the hockey phase right now.
Yeah.
So maybe next summer, we'll see.
Now, there's a pro card you talked about, but
Yeah.
then there's also like, what is the difference between a pro card and a PGA pro card?
I mean, those guys are so good. I just don't think I could get to that level. Like just to strictly play for money, those guys are amazing. So at this point in my life, just I don't think I could get to that level. But just get my Canadian PGA card and then either work at a club or like play a few tournaments, whatever. So.
Do you ever have like have you ever thought about a goal to maybe play in like a pro tournament? Have you ever thought about that? Like you've played tournaments growing up, but like to would there be something that like you'd want to do, like cross that off?
Oh, for sure. Obviously you can play as an amateur in pro tournaments. You just can't receive money that way. So like you need your pro card to go and play in those tournaments and try and make some money. So I have to make that decision at some point. Do I want to go and try and get my card or stay amateur?
And what does it take to get a pro card?
I think the qualifying, it used to be a 2-day and you have to shoot under a certain number for 2 days. And I believe it's only went to 1 day. So I'm not sure the exact score now, but
and you have to hit.
Works.
So what's the score you have to hit in the 1 day?
I think it's under 77 or 78. I believe.
What's like, so your average is like a par of like a course like Strathmore is 72.
Yeah.
So you're around the 72.
Yeah, usually around there.
So you got
every once in a while under, every once in a while over.
But you can't. You said to me that once you get your pro card, you can't play in like just fun tournaments like scramble events with your friends.
Some of them you can. Like this weekend, I know the 3-person scramble. Like you're allowed one pro on each team. Like some you're allowed and some you're not. So yeah,
there's always a very interesting question that like I've got this asked to me before, and it's kind of one of those questions that gets you thinking. Like, and I'll ask you this: like, if you couldn't fail and like nothing was impossible, what would you do?
If I couldn't fail?
If you couldn't fail.
Well, I'd play on the PGA Tour. For sure. I'd probably take it over hockey, believe it or not. Yeah.
And you know what they say about that? The thing that you say is like the thing that you... Because I think like there's such good feel-good stories, like the Michael Block story.
Yeah.
Like Michael Block being a 49-year-old, so he... Do you know a bit of his story or
not too much? No.
Like I'm just wondering how long he's had a PGA card, or no, he never. He was always a pro.
He was always a pro. Yeah, just like a club pro, I believe. Yeah, I don't think he was a touring pro. So yeah, pretty cool story what he did in the.
And like his first tournament that he went in, was it kind of like was it an amateur event, or like how did he get his shot?
I think he just qualified as being there's so many pros that do qualify for that PGA Tour event that he played in. So
yeah, I
don't know exactly how it works, but I believe he qualified somehow.
Yeah, got
into the tournament and obviously played amazing. So
it was like that story, obviously went all around the internet. Yeah. It's like there's a guy that's like had this dream his whole life and like
pretty cool.
I'm just wondering how many days he was just like, man, like, what am I doing? Like, I'm never, he's just giving lessons. He's just working at it every single day. And then all of a sudden he gets his opportunity to like golf with the big boys. he freaking shows up and just does the best almost day of his life. And now I'm pretty sure he's got his PGA card.
I'm not sure yet if he has. I don't think he has full-time status, but he has gotten into a few events because of that showing. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know how many PGA events he's played now, but I bet sitting here last year he wouldn't have thought he played in that many for sure.
So let's talk about that. What would be the steps to get to an event like that in Canada?
It'd probably be tougher in Canada to qualify for because that was a major championship. So it'd be really tough to qualify for here. I believe they have a tournament for all the club professionals or whatever, and the top so many make it into that event. So I believe that's the way he got in. But
let's talk about you though. What would the events? What event would you have to do, or if you decided that today you're just going to go all in on golf and just go for it give yourself 2 years?
Yeah.
What would you have to do?
I think steps you'd have to try and qualify for the Canadian tour.
Okay.
Something like that. There's few levels, and then nationwide tour, and then PGA tour. So you'd have to start low and just work your way up.
So deep in the back of your mind, do you want to do that?
No.
No.
I mean, I do want to, but those guys are amazing, absolutely amazing. So I don't think I could get to that level. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Part of me just wants to say Chad.
Yeah.
You got to go for this.
I think I've known a few people that have,
yeah.
and they're amazing players, so amazing, and they couldn't quite make it. So I know how hard it is.
That's the dreamer in me, though. I feel I think I've always been that, that kind of person that when people growing up and always being the big dreamer and being surrounded with people. I remember I'd sit with my old friends in high school. We'd sit around talking about dreams.
Yeah.
And, I'd always say something, and my boys, my friends would just kind of be like, dude, you're so out to lunch.
Yeah.
You're so out to lunch on what you want to do with your life. But for me, for a long time, it was I had to just go and put my blinders on, because and there's been times when you let people seep in on your journey and what you're doing. But I feel one of my favorite things is to sit across from someone. I think this is so important to the podcast. And it's getting to know someone, but just if you've never been around that, if you've never been around someone that when you say your craziest dream, in the back of your mind, you're so used to people being okay, now let's be real. I want to sit across from someone and just be why not?
Yeah.
Why not go for it? And why can't it be you?
Yeah.
Why
sure.
can't it be you that gets that opportunity, gets that one little last chance in an amateur tournament, and then you come in and you just hit the best golf game of your life, and then all of a sudden 2 years from now, Chad that was on the podcast has never said he wanted to do it.
Yeah, you never know, I guess.
You never know.
Yeah.
And I think just as a musician and music to me has changed so much over the years, but I think it's just in the back of my head, I'm just if I give up now, what was the point of all of those years of putting yourself through all this, these dark and these hard times?
For sure.
What was the point of doing that?
Yeah, for sure.
All of a sudden you're going to take the easy, safe route out, and you're just be I just busted my ass for 10 years, cut my teeth in Nashville, all that kind of stuff. And then boom, I'm just going to give up now.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. It's just something I couldn't live. And I think that's when we talk about fears, did you ever have any fears growing up about hockey or anything like that?
Not really. I don't think. I always just had that dream, and just kept working. I think more like I said earlier in the podcast, maybe after the first few years of pro, I'm I don't know if I want to keep going. I don't know if I didn't appreciate how good it was,
Yeah.
And so I learned to love the grind. I learned to love just working so hard.
Yeah.
So
what kept you going in that? What pulled you back from that first 3 years?
I think my parents just said, just keep going, keep working. Like, it's going to be good. It's going to work out good. And at times I did never believed that, but it did. So
Yeah.
I just kept working, just kept grinding it out. So,
Well, that's awesome, man. You know, obviously, you know, we became, you know, much better friends since you living here. And, yeah, man, it's so cool just to kind of like, I love that you're in such a different industry than me, but like, I just kind of getting to know you a bit more. It's cool so that you've made a living around something you love.
Yeah.
And, yeah, man, I'm glad that you could come on today and talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah,
and
thanks for having me.
how you got it. And, yeah, man, I wish you all the best, and we'll definitely get some golf games.
For sure.
I still can't play in your, like when I go out with you guys, like it's like these guys are all playing for money and like they're all sitting on the tee box and they're like, okay, this hole we're doing this. I sit in the back because I can't play for money. These guys are way too good. And like there will be a couple holes, but I play my best when I'm with these guys because I have to like rise up to the challenge a bit.
Yeah, you played good.
But one day I hope I'm like I want to play skins. I probably should bring a lot of change because I'll lose it all. But no, it's always good playing with you guys, and I learn so much from the way you guys play. And yeah, maybe one day I'll be able to break an 80.
There you go.
That's like
You will for sure. The way you hit it.
The way I hit it, but it's the mental. It's man.
You'll do it.
It's tricky. Okay, guys. Well, that's the end. Thank you guys for watching. That's Chad Bassen, and we wish him all the best in going back for his 20th year in Germany, playing pro hockey. And if hockey doesn't work out, then we hope that he does not give up and just decides that maybe we're going to give golf a little bit of a go because he's good. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for the next episode.